More than a dozen millennia have passed, and today, thanks to the thunder of grief, he will finally open the seal of Dantian, a young man looking down on the city. The mountains can be seen on the horizon, with glimpses of lightning above them. His name is Gu Shuan Chen. He would finally be able to break through the Qi refining realm, something he had not been able to do for all these millennia. His life and struggles never subside for a moment. His teacher explained to him that one should never give up. The third disciple is Empress Zway. She declared that she could no longer suppress him despite her incompetence. The girl explains to the teacher that it's too dangerous. We have to think again. This is the eldest student is the king of 1,000 demons. The second student is the wielder of the dragon shadow sword. 10th disciple Emperor Xiao Yao. Standing on top of this rock, he declared that he had had enough. The young man tells him that some would have been able to break through to the sanctuary long ago, but because of it were doomed to remain on the continent for millennia. They declare that they are willing to improve themselves for a lifetime so that their teacher can break the seal of Dantian. The young man states that he has thoroughly studied all aspects of spiritual and physical perfection. For tens of millennia, he has nurtured the best of the Qingyuan continent. But because of the innate seal on his Dantian, his level froze at the Qi refining stage. The young man realized that breaking the seal of lightning was his last chance. He made a decision. Today, he would either break the seal or die. He can't delay any longer. He decided to act and went ahead. The apprentice urges his brothers and sisters not to worry. There is no one in the whole world equal to their master's strength. He will still hold out. Whoever rebels against their master will die the most horrible death. The students are very worried about their master. There's no telling how this will end. He doesn't understand if thousands of years of hard work have gone to waste. He will not put up with it. He will rise up. It's been 700 years. A wounded young man stands near the wall, crucified and chained. The young man is alive, but it's very hard for him. Faint moans echo out of him. He's been through the ordeal. A servant asks his mistress what he should do. The young man does not wake up. The mistress told him to forget about that person. Everything that once belonged to the Gu family is now in her hands, and this young man is of no importance. The girl approached the young man. She lifted his head. She wanted to see the expression on his face. His eyes were closed. He was barely breathing. It was obvious that he had no strength left. The girl felt herself the mistress of the situation. This young man was completely dependent on her, and his fate was in her hands. The woman thought that only a fragment of the emperor's book remained. Such sword techniques were completely useless now. She was angry with the young man. How dare he waste her precious time? He was not worthy of her attention. His condition was indifferent to her now. The landlady told her favor to feed this young man himself. He's no longer of any use. The young man was carried to a vacant lot. The chains that bound his limbs remained on his hands and feet. The crows were already circling over him. It seemed that his fate was sealed. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning pierced his head. A charge of electricity passed through the young man's body. The young man immediately opened his eyes. There was a thirst for life in them. He wasn't going to die. That lightning bolt had brought him to his senses. It brought him back into the light. The young man never imagined that he could be reborn in another body. He was lucky that he was able to keep a piece of his soul when his body was almost gone forever. This all happened 700 years later. A piece of his soul finally ended up in the body of one of the Gu family's descendants to awaken his memories of his past life. But the best part is that he came back to life. The seal that had been with him all his life was finally gone. The young man remembers that the Luo family always wanted to get hold of his family's secret sword techniques. In order to protect themselves, the family passed the technique to him so that he could merge with the family. The young man remembered that something incredible had happened on their wedding night. Luo Shengshe took away the technique formula, smashed his dantian, and cut off his refinement. She decided that he should die. She kept him in the dungeon, and every day it was to mock him. It gave her great pleasure. The young man remembered the Gu family. It remained in his memory forever, and it couldn't be erased. The young man decided to play by her rules. He should be able to do that. He knew how to behave. Gu family house. A young girl kneels before the master of the house in the presence of the guards. The girl declares that she does not want to get married. What the elder is going to do is violence. Gu Yuhan's sister. The elder told her that Master Lin had personally come to see her. He valued and respected her. Therefore, she should not reject him. Elder of the Gu Haibo family. Haibo says that he, the elder, and he personally chose this marriage for her. The young girl looks at the elder with tears in her eyes. She realizes that she is doomed. This is going to happen against her will, and she doesn't know what to do. The young master of the Lin family, Lin Bai. The young master says that he didn't come here for the girl's consent. He believes that there is no brave person in the Gu family who can stop him. Limba realizes that this girl treats him badly, but that's the least of his interest. He wants to get what he wants. Sticking out his vile tongue and smirking, Lin Ba uttered that he would take care of this girl from now on. He orders his servants to seize the young lady. The young lady resists and tearfully cries out that she does not want this. Suddenly, the unexpected happened. These servants were defeated, and they got what they deserved. The girl was freed. She closed her eyes. She was scared. She didn't understand what was happening. Mr. Lin's servants were wary. They didn't understand what was going on and who was preventing their master's decision from being carried out. Who it could be. The young man remained in the shadows. You couldn't make out his face. The young man was tossing the stone in his hand. He said that he was wrong, who said that no one in the Gu family would resist this fat man. Now we'll see what this groom is all about. Everyone was wary. It begged the question, who broke the established rules? It would cause an imbalance in the family. The light from the full moon illuminated the young man's face, and everyone saw who it was. It was unbelievable that he decided to intervene. The girl, with tears in her eyes, rushed to her brother. She was sobbing and could not believe that anyone could have stood up for her. The young man said he was back, and now he would handle the matter, and asked her to trust him. Lim Ba wondered who it could be. It turned out to be Gu Shuan Chen. Now he understood what he had to do. The young bridegroom announced that the young man had been in prison for 2 years, but once he was released, he sought death. The fat man continued, and said that today he was willing to let the young man kneel and watch him and his sister on their marriage bed. Limba stated that he would enjoy it much more if the young man watched the process. It would be a new experience. After saying that, the young man sprang into action. He pulled a sword from the sheath of one of the guards. He didn't even blink an eye. Now the young man was hugging his sister with one arm and holding a cold weapon in the other. It was a different balance of power. The fat man had not expected this turn of events. Sticking out his tongue and poking his ugly belly out, he decided to pounce on the young man. He thought he could do something about it. The young man settled the matter very quickly. That nasty fat groom was lying in a puddle of his own blood in a moment, and there was nothing more he could do about it. The elder in front of whose eyes this bloodshed took place said that Gu Shuan Chen had gone mad. The corpses of the groom and his entourage were lying around. The man shouted, "How dare he raise his hand on Mr. Lin? Now their family could be leveled to the ground. This wasn't supposed to happen." The young man called the elder trash. Who plays wolf in front of his own people and whines like a dog in front of others? This asshole made him beg for leniency. The elder shouted that he was not the one who had destroyed their family. Everything he did was for the good of the family. The elder said his guards were of no use. They couldn't handle one man. You have to do everything yourself. The man said that no one dares speak to him so impolitely. He's going to destroy him today. Like a lousy sheep, it will be as an apology to Master Lin. The elder had activated the heavenly net technique before attacking. This should have helped him in the battle. The young man knew that he would have to fight Old Man Gu. He couldn't be intimidated by the elder's threats. The young man repelled all of the elder's attacks. He couldn't understand how the young man had such a technique. This is worthy of a supreme master. The confrontation continued. The young man knew he had a lot to do with this old man, but he decided that the man had lived long enough. He had no other choice. Elder Gu thought otherwise. He decided that in this situation, it was time to honor the young man. He would not tolerate such a mess in his house. Gu Shuan Chen came here to defend his sister's honor. Therefore, he has no intention of losing, and this fight, he must win. The old man had multiple wounds. He could no longer stand on his feet. He was bleeding from his wounds. He had no strength to continue fighting. Elder Gu fell on his back. His mouth was bleeding. With every drop of blood, he was losing his strength and his life was drained away. The old man lay motionless. The young man pointed his sword toward the guards. They thought that it was impossible. How could Gu Shuan Chen defeat the elder? He was currently at the qi refining stage. The third elder asked if he had seen his emperor's book. The emperor's book is an emperor-level technique created from a person's accumulated martial skills, experience, and spiritual power, helping them break through to the degree of wisdom. The young man knew that the imperial technique cultivated with the Gu family for generations was an ancient sword technique created by a true master of his craft, also known as the creator of the imperial sword. The young man regretted that the formula had not survived to these times in its entirety. Only a fragment of it remained. Because of this, the Gu clan was falling into more and more decline every year. But Gu Shuan Chen had just made a breakthrough. The young man thought that perhaps he had found the true formula for his sword. He told the girl that it would soon be over. The young man thought that the fragment from the original owner's mind was similar to the emperor's description of their family. For some reason, after using it, it seemed familiar to the young man. It must be a technique, the work of Xiao Tian's hands. 700 years from now, he'll find traces of his students everywhere, so he was a good teacher. Why only fragments? Isn't that all that has survived to posterity? Having been reborn, he had stored countless secret techniques, including imperial techniques, in his heart. However, the strength of this body was too little. His cultivation level was insufficient, so he could not utilize these techniques to their fullest extent. The young man knew for sure that he had to put an end to this. This must not go on any longer. The third elder told the servants not to stand like statues. Gu Shuan Chen understood the true meaning of the family scripture. He was the only one who could become the head of this family. The young man hadn't counted on this turn of events. The servants kneeled before him and said that they were glad to see the young master at home. The young man said that he wouldn't waste time bringing everyone up to date on current affairs, because they already know everything. The servants asked the third elder, did they really recognize Gu Shuan Chen as the head of the clan? The young man's actions offended the families of both Lin and Luo. This will not go unpunished in the future. The servant continued, if they recognized him as the head, then all responsibility would fall on his shoulders. If he managed to overcome the difficulties, then they would all be willing to share in his success. The elder continued, and if he fails, would it be bad to use the situation to get rid of him? The servants bowed and said that the elder was very wise, and they would all wait so that they might know how to proceed. The young lady said her brother was right. If he continues to behave like that, their family will never be bullied again. The girl looked back and gave her brother a grateful look. She knew that now she had a protector who would never leave her. The young man coughed. The girl exclaimed. She noticed that blood was coming out of the young man's mouth. His brother must be hurt, she thought. The young people entered the room. The girl suggested that her brother lie down. We need to see what happened to him, how serious it was. The young man asked the girl to be quieter, so that no one around him would know that he was hurt. The young man thought to himself, This body couldn't even withstand a sword strike. He had to get back to his previous level as soon as possible. The young man knew that he should first temper his body, then turn to practicing true qi, then to channel the flow of energy into the body to refine the spiritual power to raise the level. Above the ascetic stage, there is also the stage of celestial emptiness of all things and wisdom. Each stage is divided into two boundaries, and they in turn into three stages: the initial middle stage and the highest stage. Gu Shuan Chen knew if one could break through the void and the monarch step, one could ascend to the heavens. The young man regretted that for tens of thousands of years in his past life, he had been unable to live a normal life because of some seal. Now that he has gotten this chance, he will definitely make up for the sorrows of his past life and reach the very top. Now his initial task is to harden his body to make his body stronger and improve his level. The girl asked that her brother calm down and watch his breathing. After his injury, he must be careful. The girl turned to her brother. Now that he wasn't feeling well, she would keep an eye on him. She headed for the door. The girl said she would not let anyone disturb her brother, and he could rest. No one must know about his injury. This girl is much stronger than she looks, the young man thought, and she's very good at holding herself together. The young man noticed that she was holding a dagger near her. Could it be, the young man thought, that if he hadn't gotten there in time, she might have killed herself? Gu Shuan Chen decided for himself that first of all, he would have to choose this scroll as his main skill. By quickly pumping it up, he would be able to protect himself. The guy knew that he had already passed the qi purification stage in his past life, but this body was too weak. It's better to choose practices to strengthen the body. He decided to take the practice of the 10 freedoms as his base. That will be his base, and that's what we have to build on. The young man began to meditate. He concentrated and channeled his inner energy to improve his qi. At the end of the motivation came his loud scream, eyes glowing. Energy was bulging outward. He had made a breakthrough. His scream was heard by everyone outside. The column of light coming from the young man was directed toward the sky. His sister saw all of this and realized that his brother had decided to break through from the small spirit realm. He succeeded. The young man realized that this was the purification of qi. The spiritual energy he had tried many times to attract in his past life was finally with him. Xiao Yao clan. The servants lined up to wait for the elder. They all wanted to greet him together and report what happened in his absence. The servant reported to the master that he had arrived, and there was nothing to be done about it. The master accepted the news in silence. The elder stated that this is their patron. The old man said that in the years of their clan's existence, no matter what danger they were in, he had never once been distracted by their calling out. The girl wondered how this person managed to attract attention. The young man said that he had heard that Elder Mohe in the Alliance had accepted a female disciple named Luo Sheng Shui. She was able to break through the minor spirit realms at the age of 18. The old man speculated that she might be a genius sent from the heavens under the mentorship of their patron. The master ordered that a letter be sent to the elder immediately, and to invite Miss Luo, the genius chosen by the patron, to join them. The young man turned to his sister. Could she not look at him like that? It made him uncomfortable. The girl stated that she couldn't be happy about the fact that her brother had finally managed to break through the small spirit realm. The young man thought that in his past life he had been obsessed with finding a way to break the seal. He had no interest in interacting with other people, and now he had a sister. The young man thought it was a nuisance. A servant came to the young man and told him to have people come to him with a question, and they must be admitted. Gu Shuan Chen said that his sister can go. He needed to have a talk. The girl agreed and left. The man said, "Just now Miss Luo arrived at the Xiao Yao clan with the help of Elder Mo He. In addition, the elder had placed the Xiao Yao clan's order on the Luo family's house." The young man told them to get up. He thought to himself that it was the fox that was jumpy. The man said it's not about Miss Luo, It's about the Xiaoyao order. It guarantees absolute protection. Even the emperor's family deciding to visit the Luo family would have to ask permission. The young man was surprised. So what? Since they crossed Mr. Lin's path, the only thing they can count on is the Luo family's help. But Miss Luo got a unilateral divorce. The man finished that now Gu's family is isolated and helpless, and can only rely on their own strength. The young man, finishing his tea, flashed his eyes. Then so be it. The man shouted that they had discussed it earlier and now wanted to ask for his permission to pass on the full form of the sword technique to the family. The young man interrupted him half-heartedly. Gu Shuan Chen shouted at the man, "Since when did they think they had the right to make such decisions? He's the elder of the clan now. It's his prerogative." The man decided that this was the middle stage of the small spirit realm. It was evident by his determination. Gu Shuan Chen declared that the Luo family must be destroyed. Elder Luo must die. If they don't want to take part in this, they can leave the Gu family. The man became angry. He didn't understand how this brat was able to reach the middle of the small spirit realm in one day. He didn't understand what had happened to him. He wanted to push him into a rash war with his family and reap the rewards of his decisions. But now, if he allowed him to do so, his plan to seize power within the family might fail. The man stated that since it had been too short a time since his breakthrough, he was willing to take his advice. The people have decided to rebel. It's better to capture him and hand him over to the Luo family. Maybe they can use him to show them some favor. Maybe he would still be useful to them. The man decided that by doing this, he could regain his power. Killing two birds with one stone. He declared that Gu Shuan Chen, even with the knowledge of the true sword technique formula, he had barely broken through the little realm. The man decided that perhaps he had been hasty in giving up his seat. The second elder decided, for the sake of the Gu family's future, to personally teach the young man a lesson. Gu Shuan Chen said for them to attack faster, because he's in a hurry. The warriors didn't know whether to obey their master or attack the young elder, but they had to make a choice. The man called his servants a bunch of cowards. So what if their elder has grasped the true formula? Without it, he's just an ordinary man, nothing more. Gu Shuan Chen said that, in his opinion, these people are just smarter than his brother, and they are doing the right thing. The man began to doubt that the elder would be able to resist them. After all, he is but one man, and nothing more than an ordinary man. The young man's eyes sparkled. He said they dared not doubt his power, and that he had made a breakthrough. The clash took place after all. Some people obeyed one brother, some people obeyed another brother, and the warriors fought each other. Gu Shuan Chen was invincible. He was untouched by other people's weapons. His inner energy had burst out, and that's what everyone saw. In the end, it turned out that his brother and the men who followed him lost and were killed. It was for the edification of others. The elder said that his spiritual power is just fine. He feels like a different person. The young man said to collect all the corpses and get them out of here. The rest he's willing to spare. And that's an order from a clan elder. His brother and his minions were defeated. Their sister saw the outcome of the battle. She was upset. After all, it was her brother. The servants decided to speak to the lady. The bravest one made a request to her. The girl pulled out her dagger. The servants said she shouldn't get her hands dirty. But the girl could not be held back. Her anger and rage burst forth. She swung her dagger left and right. The girl said her brother was too generous, but she's not. And in the future, if anyone dares to give her brother the same fate will befall them. The girl said, wiping the blood off her dagger, that she would personally deal with such people. The servants were frightened and began to shout that they would never betray their elder. And everyone swore allegiance to the Gu family and the elder. Everyone decided that the elder's sister was a real monster. The girl said she wasn't done. She added that she wouldn't want her brother to know about what happened here. It would be their little secret. When the young lady was left alone, she cried, because she was a fragile girl who had lost her nerve. Yuhan reassured herself. She told herself that she could do it. Her brother told her that she shouldn't cry. Her brother had a lot of things to do right now. She must be a reliable support for him, and she can't let anyone bother him in the future. Young people walking in the city. Good weather. The young man wondered what these immortality pills were. This is one of the most important places on the continent. This hall has many branches throughout the continent. The best alchemists work here. They sell and buy elixirs and various resources to cultivate medicinal materials. A young man was approached by a stranger. She asked if there was anything she could do to help him. The young man said that he wanted to sell the recipe for the immortality pill. He thought that if he wanted to improve his strength faster, taking the pill was definitely the best option. The girl invited the young man to follow her. She would take him where he needed to go. People saw that it was Gu Shuan Chen. What is he doing here? Everyone thought. Someone said that he came here with the recipe for the immortality pill. How could a person like him obtain something like this? The hall mistress, Qing Yue, greeted the young man. She asked what she had come to see her about. The girl was busy. The young man said that he brought the girl something for expert appraisal. It's very valuable. The girl opened the prescription and read it. She was an expert in such matters. The composition given in the recipe for the preparation of the pill interested her very much. It was original. It was like nothing she had ever seen before. The girl decided to manipulate and told the young man what she thought of this recipe. The hostess of the hall declared that this recipe was worthless, no more than the value of the paper it was written on. The young man was surprised at that. The hostess said it couldn't be called a recipe, because she hadn't heard of the ingredients listed here. The girl continued. She said that the young man was kicked out of Luo Shengshuo's house. Therefore, he decided to come here, to deceive everyone here and make a fool of himself. The young man said that the girl was ignorant herself for not being able to recognize such an elementary recipe. Apparently, the title of Anyan's alchemist was nothing. The girl didn't like that. She said if the young man was so sure of himself, maybe he would dare to fight her. She was used to settling matters that way, and added that this vile misogynist dared not treat her with contempt. The young man agreed to fight this girl. He was afraid he would have no place to practice alchemy, but this girl, unbeknownst to him, served him well. The hall mistress said that their equipment was capable of producing high-quality pills and elixirs. She and a young man will be making second-order refractive spirit pills now. The winner would be determined by the quality of the pills. The young man knew that the second-order pill was usually taken by a warrior. It helps one directly break through from the small spiritual realm to the heavenly realm. This kind of pill would definitely be of use to the young man. Such a pill can be improved with a special purified fire. It didn't even require any special effort. The young man knew this for sure. The young man decided to use his fire control technique. He had been very good at it in his previous life. He hoped that those skills had been preserved. The young man started a fire under the stove. The flame was getting hotter. The furnace was already red hot. Gu Shuan Chen felt that the fire was still weak. He should turn up the heat to achieve the desired effect. To do so, the young man had to connect his internal meridians and intensify the power of the fire. He had succeeded. The flames grew to unbelievable proportions. This furnace had never experienced anything like it. The temperature was unbelievable. The young man didn't stop there. He decided that this wasn't enough either. He decided that this was not enough either. In another room, the mistress of the hall was trying to fan her stove, but she wasn't very good at it. She wondered why the fire in her stove was so weak today. She could definitely lose the bet. You can't make a proper pill with a flame like that. In the next room, it turned out that the boiler exploded. No one expected that. The girl heard an explosion, looked around, saw smoke. She thought something had happened. Something must have gone wrong with the young man. The hostess entered the room where the owner was and asked what was going on here. She did not like what she saw. Tao Hai, the master of the immortality pill hall, was in the room. He said that it was all over. The girl rushed towards him in horror. In front of the hall master was a ruined furnace. The man regretted that all his herbs were gone. He had worked so hard to obtain fourth-grade materials. The girl couldn't understand why her fire was so weak. The girl thought that if she took the ingredients from Gu Shuan Chen's recipe, could anything be possible? The hallmaster said they were fourth-grade herbs. How could the girl know about them? She's a level 1 alchemist. She shouldn't touch those herbs. The man asked if the girl had found the recipe for the ancient pill. He thinks that with this recipe, the 4th level purification can be accomplished. The girl was amazed. Could it really be level 4? The man said, judging by the look on the girl's face, she was in an argument with someone again. He had warned her long ago that meeting someone better than herself was in order. If she continued to rely on the name of the best alchemist in Anyang, she would be insulting her master. The girl noticed that that guy was good for nothing. Even if he had such a recipe, he wouldn't be able to realize it as well as she did. The girl tried to use her fire technique once again. The hallmaster looked at what she had going on. The fire was still low. She was clearly having a hard time. The young one especially tried her best. Immortality pill. Master Tao Hai said that he couldn't handle the fire, and the cauldron was torn apart. He was told it didn't just happen to him. This seemed to happen to everyone who was creating pills and building a fire under the stove at that moment. The alchemists were afraid of what might have happened, why their furnaces were exploding, why the fire wouldn't start. Something caught the man's attention. He told the girl to look over there. It was something unusual. The girl looked at Gu Shuan Chen's furnace and couldn't believe it. What had happened to his fire? It was unbelievable. How can fire be so strong? The girl thought. She had never seen such a thing in this pavilion or in her life. Immortality pill. Hall Master Tao Hai said it wasn't that the fire source was depleted, but that he had concentrated all of its power at his cauldron with a special technique. The alchemists made their way to the young man's room. They were very interested in his abilities and accomplishments. What they saw amazed them very much. Gu Shuan Chen has created something unparalleled, and it was invented in their furnace. The young man said his life no longer belonged to him. The girl asked the master, "Are these second-order pills?" The master confirmed, and he said that they say that most second-order pills are said to be vastly superior to third-order pills in their effectiveness. This was the first time he had ever seen someone who purified them with such ease. This guest truly turned out to be a master of his craft. The young man stated that he was no longer afraid of death, and he is ready to give his life for a good cause. The girl snatched up her dagger, declared that she really wasn't afraid of death. If the man won this battle, she would give him her life. Immortality pill. Hall Master Tao Hai shouted for the girl not to do that and stopped. Tao Hai, using his inner resources, forced the girl to drop the dagger. She screamed in fear, but she didn't realize her plan. The man grabbed the girl, walked over to Mr. Gu, and said that he was the teacher of this ignorant girl, and he apologizes on her behalf for being so rude. The girl told the teacher not to ask this young man. Tao Hai told her to shut up and not to interfere when a man is talking. It was all her fault, and now he has to deal with it. The young man said it was Tao Yun's technique. Who is he to him? They must be related. The man said he was his ancestor and wondered if anyone knew his ancestor. The young man said that Tao Yun was a rank 10 alchemist. Why would a man in his 40s only be a rank 3 alchemist? Tao Hai said that the knowledge left behind by his ancestor has been lost over time. He may be his descendant, but his knowledge of him is only superficial, and he is ashamed of it. The young man said that he had once owed his ancestor a debt. A long time ago they had known each other. The young man put his fingers to the man's forehead and said that today he intended to repay his debt. Tao Hai wondered, Could this young man in the past really know my ancestor? The young man kept his fingers pressed tightly against the pavilion master's forehead. Energy oozed through his fingers, straight into the man's head. It was a transfer of knowledge. Tao Hai was gaining full knowledge of his ancestor at this moment. Clarity was coming into his mind, and the amount of information had greatly increased. After the process of imparting knowledge, the man's hair became frizzy. He thanked Mr. Gu. He realized that one had to reach at least the 5th level of alchemy to use such a technique. The man wondered if this young man was really an ancient master. You can't tell from his appearance. He looks like a person who doesn't know anything in life yet. How can that be? The young man said that when he was young, they didn't know each other, but when he started to be mocked because of his qi practices, Tao Yun stood up for him. The man said that a collection of ignoramuses are only capable of discussing and judging people behind their backs. The young man said that he had now paid his debt, but he had never imagined that his descendants would be so weak. The young man turned to Tao Hai, and then the girl intervened and shouted, "If he wants to kill, let him kill." The young man slapped her not hard and told her to come to her senses. Nobody's going to kill her. The girl was screaming. Why did the young man just hit her? That wasn't in the terms of their bet. That's violence. The young man said that just because her teacher spoiled her, it didn't mean that others should do the same. The girl is 20 years old and is only a level 2 alchemist. That's not something to be proud of. If it wasn't for her master, she would have paid for her arrogant behavior a long time ago. Immortality. Pill. Master Tao Hai thanked the master for the lesson. The girl was very surprised. She hadn't heard of any lesson. Master Gu didn't understand why this man was messing around with this girl. The young people went outside. There they saw fireworks. The young man knew that this was a technique of the Gu family. If someone in their family dies or is born, they use this technique to give a sign to all the clan members. The young man wondered what could have happened. What could have happened to his family members? Gu family home. A villain with a sword holds a servant by the hair and asks in a menacing voice where Gu Shuan Chen is now. The servant says he doesn't know and asks to be spared. Everyone who was around at that moment was splattered with blood. The villain did not spare the servant. The aliens didn't know what to do. Everyone in the house is silent. No one wants to give away their master. The head of the Lin family said to kill everyone one by one. Someone will crack. He needs to find that obnoxious young man. Sister Gu was presented with a dagger, but they said they won't kill her. She would still be useful. It was hard for the girl. The elder said that Pa Eru likes this girl. Therefore, there are special plans for her. This girl will have a posthumous marriage. This is Elder Lin's decision. There were many members of the Lin clan in the Gu family's house. All of them were armed. It was an armed attack. It was planned in advance. The young man found out what had happened. He was furious. He was coming home, and he knew what he was going to do. He decided that today. The Lin family will no longer exist in the city, and that is his final decision. The girl was having a hard time. She called her brother. She hoped that he would be able to save her this time. There was no one else to hope for. The young man came home. Elder Lin said he finally came back. They had been waiting for him for a long time. It was reported to Elder Lin that the young man was in the middle of the heavenly spirit realm. The old man was surprised. He knew that before the young man had left home, his level had not exceeded a small realm. And he didn't understand how the young man was able to break through like that in such a short period of time. As soon as he got home, he realized who the traitor was in his clan, and he dealt with him first. The elder realized he was facing a serious opponent, and the conversation would not be easy. The young man said with burning eyes that he would always deal with traitors like this. The members of the Lin clan bared their swords and stood in defense, eager to protect their head. The elder shouted for everyone to step back. He wanted to deal with that rascal himself. The old man's eyes blazed with anger. The old man used the sword technique of the leader of the princes. It was his favorite technique. The young man was as calm as ever. The young man had no problem reflecting the old man's blows. He said, "How could the old man dare to appear in front of him with such terrible fighting skills?" The young man wielded his sword and forced his opponent to retreat. The old man was nervous. Things were not going according to his plan. The young man was not only great in defense, he was also great in attack. The elder found it harder and harder to hold back the young man's attack. He couldn't understand why this was happening. He obviously didn't expect that he would have such a serious opponent today. Elder Lin couldn't understand why the young girl's attack blows were getting more and more. Where does she get so much energy from? He decided it was all a ploy by the young man, and he shouted that he would take his life anyway. And once again, he went on the attack. The guy, with burning eyes and hatred on his face, also decided to attack his opponent. The young man shouted that he was suggesting that the old man drop his sword. Perhaps then he would spare him. The old man ignored the young man's words, and everyone around him was splattered with blood. The young man's blade turned purple. The old man was seriously wounded. The girl who was watching this fight, looking at her brother, said in surprise that this was a skill of the Xiaoyao clan. Only the elders of that clan can use such a practice. The members of the Lin clan kept shouting to protect their head and were ready to rush at the young man again. The young man indiscriminately began to deal with the rest of his opponents. Blades, body parts, and blood spatters flew in different directions. The servants of the elders covered their master with their bodies and shouted for a quick retreat. The young man, looking at his bloodied rival, said he would not be able to escape the massacre. Gu Shuan Chen said that it was too late to retreat. There was determination in his eyes. He was determined to see this matter through to the end. The master had destroyed all the opponents. At the ruins of the house the next day, a familiar alchemist appeared and said that they had heard that the young man's clan was in trouble. So he sent his alchemist warriors to help. The man looked carefully and saw the outcome of yesterday's battle. The young man walked over the corpses of his rivals and said there was no trouble. That's ridiculous. Everyone was just amazed that one man could do all this. How he had so much power. The Gu family members untied the ropes on their hands that the Lin clan had tied them with. Tao Hai said he saw the distress signal and immediately sent his men to support the Gu family. But he didn't expect Mr. Gu to handle everything personally. Not only was the young man an alchemist, but he was also peerless in martial arts. This shocked him. Hai said to urgently send all the injured family members to their pavilion for treatment. Tao Hai said that Mr. Gu is a great man with his own secrets that no one should know about. Sister Gu ran up to her brother. She asked if he was all right. The girl was very worried. The young man said he was fine. The girl clung to her brother and said, "Thank God." She will always be nervous when her brother fights, and she doesn't know how to help him in that case. But she always believes in him. The girl asked why the brother had used this particular technique during the battle with the head of the Lin family. The girl wondered if he and that Miss Lin were still together. If so, she would never forgive him. The young man was surprised by his sister's question. Tao Hai explained to the young man. The girl had been accepted as a disciple by Elder Mo He of the Xiaoyao clan. Therefore, his sister wanted to know why he possessed this practice. Could it be that it was Miss Luo who taught him? Gu Shuan Chen asked what was the connection between the Xiaoyao clan and this technique. Could it be that this technique had passed to that clan? Tao He explained that 3,000 years ago, Emperor Xiaoyao had founded the clan on a mountain that was once the place with the strongest energy. That was why the clan had become one of the most powerful clans. The young man said he was aware of this. The young man thought that he was the one who had chosen the name for the clan. He was the one who owned the formation. That was why he was using it now. In those days, everyone thanked the young man for this formation. He received this formation then from the elder. Tao Hai continued that 700 years ago, the emperor disappeared mysteriously right after his ascension. Therefore, the enemies of the clan had come to take revenge. Without a leader, the Xiaoyao clan grew weaker and weaker. In the end, they were forced to retreat the borders of the wasteland, and this place is now called the land of the Xiaoyao clan. The young man somehow didn't know that the modern Xiaoyao clan was the descendants of that very clan. The young man thought that something had happened to the Xiaoyao clan the moment he tried to break the seal. If it wasn't for him, his clan wouldn't have been in such distress. The young man decided that he would lead this clan to prosperity once again. The guy asked if Sheng Shui had a younger brother. Tao Hai confirmed. His name is Luo Tao, and he is known for his atrocities, and no one dares to oppose him because he has great power in his hands. The young man decided that this power would soon be gone. He would put an end to it. Apparently, this Mo He is just mediocre, since he granted the Xiaoyao clan's protection to the Luo family. We need to fix this immediately. The young man, running away, said to deal with all the wounded, and he still had things to do. All the people of Anyang must realize what will happen to them if they oppose the Gu family. Luo family banquet. Everyone congratulates the head of the family on receiving the Order of Protection. And now they're safe. The head of the family said they were very kind to him. A man was brought a gift. It was ginseng, which had been specially sent to a distant land. He thought the gift would be to his liking. Suddenly, the doors to the manor burst open with a crash. Elder Luo jumped up angrily and shouted, "Who dared to do this?" He was not to be disturbed on such a day. Gu Shuan Chen appeared as an uninvited guest. He said that the place was lively. He introduced himself and said that he also had a gift. The young man confirmed that he had a special gift for head Luo, and he threw the younger Luo to the ground and stepped on him with his foot. The elder shouted for Gu Shuan Chen to immediately release his son. The man was furious. Everyone shouted for Gu Shuan Chen to immediately let the young man go and not go crazy. The Luo family is under the protection of the Xiaoyao order, and they cannot be threatened. The members of the Luo clan surrounded Gu Shuan Chen. They were outraged that the alien had so brazenly torn into their territory. The clan had declared if the young man did not release his son now, he would make his life agonizing. He is ready to cut it off at once. The young man stated that the last person who tried to threaten him had turned to ashes, and he was used to being threatened. Gu Shuan Chen said that his gift did not please the clan head. In that case, he was willing to do things differently, said the young man, and lifted the clan master's son's collar. The young man's eyes sparkled. He was ready to take drastic measures. It was obvious to him that no one could stop him. Gu Shuan Chen lifted the young man up and punched him in the chest with all his might. The blow was so strong that blood gushed out of his mouth. The young man's father cried out in horror. His eyes were filled with horror, pain, and despair. He realized that at this moment he could not protect his son. The head of the Luo clan lunged at the offending clan member. He was ready to destroy him. All he needed to do at that moment was to free his son. Gu Shuan Chen left the young man bleeding. His father took him in his arms. He asked, "What is going on with you?" The young man, enduring the pain, said with tears in his eyes that he had a problem with his dantian and his perfection was undermined. The Luo clan head shouted with rage. How could Gu Shuan Chen do this to his son? The young man had nothing to do with this at all. Gu Shuan Chen said that he had nothing to do with it either. Elder Luo himself had presented him a gift on a platter, but the young man only helped him. The warriors told their master to stop talking to the offender. They would now bring his head. The men had an aggressive attitude. Their weapons were visible. Gu Shuan Chen said that they wouldn't be able to handle their level of development. It was better for them to keep their heads down. Clan Chief Luo said that Gu Shuan Chen wouldn't be able to destroy his family. No one here will let that happen. The man added that with his skills, he wouldn't even be able to accomplish this in 100 years, and now he would be finished. Elder Luo shouted, "No one dares to insult his family and disrespect the Xiao Yao order," promised not to leave a piece of flesh from his abuser, and lunged at the young man with a desire to kill him. The young man stated that with his level, it was really quite problematic to fight against 1,000. He has another plan. The man, said he, is not performing today without a trump card in his pocket. The treasure his rivals hope to protect will be the weapon that will bring them down. Gu Shuan Chen prepared to confront the Luo clan master. The young man said he had plans for their family. He decided today, destroy their family completely, and they will all disappear today. The young man took out a golden amulet with a red gemstone that should help him now. He raised it high above his head, and that powerful one glowed, releasing a large amount of energy. Everyone in the neighborhood wondered how this was possible. Could he really control the Xiao Yao order granted to the Luo family? The head of the Luo clan attacked the young man and asked him how he knew the formula of the order. He replied that there were many things in the world that he didn't know about, including this one. The man was shouting that he had to deal with the bastard as soon as possible. It was a call to his subordinates. The servants, armed with swords, pounced on the young man. He confidently repelled the attack, and the enemies flew in all directions. Gu Shuan Chen left no chance for the Luo family to escape. His aggression level was off the charts. He was fierce and ruthless. Family members cried out for help, wounded warriors scattering to the sides. The dead were lying everywhere. Gu Shuan Chen did not spare anyone. The place where the celebration had been held a short while ago was nothing but ashes, and the Luo clan leader looked on. Above all of this, Gu Shuan Chen towered over. The master of the house thought, how come not only was this guy able to activate the order, but he was also able to utilize high-level attack information? Gu Shuan Chen walked close to his opponent, sitting on the ground. The enemies came face to face and looked into each other's eyes. The young man turned to the elder. He was completely calm and confident. The young man said he had one piece of advice he wanted to give. The young man said that even after reincarnation, he wouldn't recommend contacting the Gu family. The consequences would be disastrous for them. The young man lifted his opponent and gave him a fatal blow to the chest. His opponent's blood splattered in all directions. Elder Luo let out a gasp. The man fell to the ground, his eyes rolled back. Blood was gushing from his mouth. All the survivors began to apologize to Mr. Gu, and they all declared that from now on, they would recognize the young man as the head of the Gu clan. Gu Shuan Chen said that he would give them half an hour of time to put the place in order, and then he won't kill them. That's how Master Gu dealt with the Luo clan, and everyone in the circle became aware of it. The young man received a report that after raiding the Lin and Luo families, a total of 70 spirit stones, 62 second-level medicinal pills, 94 units of second-level medicinal herbs, and many weapons had been obtained. The man wondered if this young man had actually decided to destroy the Luo family. In addition, the representatives of the 8 major families asked the head to pay Anyang's taxes. It seems that the young man has also lured powerful families to his side. It looks like this city will belong to the Gu family for the foreseeable future. The young man said that the hidden danger of Anyang had been eliminated. He entrusts the affairs of this city to the second elder and Yu Han. The girl asked where my brother was going now, if there was anything she could do to help him. Xiao Yao clan. One fish from the Luo clan did slip through the nets. Gu Shuan Chen decided that he needed to give all the trash a good cleaning. The girl asked why her brother suddenly decided to go there. Could he have anything in common with them? The young man replied whether his sister knew that all these years she had not been able to practice at all, not because of her poor health. It was because of a chaotic celestial body in the sky. Tao Hai heard this and was surprised. If the legend was to be believed, wasn't this chaotic celestial body not the most suitable body for cultivation. The young man said that there was still, if a cultivator couldn't activate his abilities with one of the 9 great spiritual treasures. The young man added that spiritual power wouldn't be able to flow quietly through the meridians of the soul and wouldn't be internalized. But once activated, the cultivator's potential would be an order of magnitude higher than ordinary warriors. Gu Shuan Chen replied to his sister that he had a lot of things to do right now, and he couldn't endlessly protect her. The young man said that this time he was going to the Xiao Yao clan. He would find a treasure that would help the girl discover her abilities as soon as possible so that she could protect herself in the future. The girl was moved. Tears came to her eyes. She hugged her brother and told him that he cared for her very much. The young man wondered when this girl would stop prying and hugging him. Tao Hai said he didn't think the Xiao Yao clan would give up their treasures easily. He asked the young man to be careful. Gu Shuan Chen told them not to worry. He has a way to make them give up the treasure peacefully. Without fighting, the young man reached Mount Qiandang. It was not an easy journey. The young man listened to himself. He could not be mistaken. Even now he could feel the remnants of spiritual vibrations here. The young man didn't expect the fluctuating spiritual power to be so weakened. It took him a long time. At the foot of the mountain, a young man found a locked cave in the rock. He went to a large rock and recited a spell to open the cave. There was a structural change near the entrance to the cave. The young man was in control of it all. His thoughts were clear, and he knew what he should do next. The stone gate swung open, and before the young man stood the entrance to the cave. A glow was visible in the depths of the cave. The young man went there. Gu Shuan Chen rushed straight into the depths of the cave. Nothing could stop him. The warriors standing in the way couldn't be an obstacle. After overcoming the cave, the young man emerged from the other side of the mountain. What he saw was the destination of his journey. It was the Xiao Yao clan's estate. Our hero assessed the situation. He looked around at the surrounding area so that he would know all the escape routes in case of emergency. He was interested in everything about the location of the estate. The young man noticed that there was a lot of spiritual energy in the vicinity, and this place is predisposed for cultivation. The young man knew that he wouldn't have to worry about a lack of spiritual energy later on in this place. The man turned to the young man. "Is it okay to use an ancient mythical beast as a guardian of the clan?" The young man told the man to give it a try. It would be the right thing to do. The man replied that he didn't care. The man replied to the master that this ancient tree would bear fruit in 3,000 years, and he thanked him. The young man only smirked in response. The huge dragon was right outside the Xiao Yao clan's estate. The young man gave him a very tidbit of land. He hoped he wouldn't disappoint his followers by coming back here in 100 years. Otherwise, he'd be in trouble. Gu Shuan Chen arrived on the spot. He was determined and bold, and now he was ready to act. There was another guardian. It was a water dragon. He had an equally intimidating appearance. He was just as aggressive, and he felt like a master of his element. It was a disciple of the Xiao Yao clan, Mo Quan Yan. The girl wielded her sword skillfully, as befitted any warrior of the Xiao Yao clan. Her gaze was confident. The girl moved around the water dragon like a stream of wind. She had time to be everywhere. She didn't leave the dragon no chance. The girl was a master of her sword. At some point, the dragon managed to seize the initiative. The girl lost her sword and started falling down. Already at the ground, Gu Shuan Chen picked her up in his arms. Their gazes met. In this situation, the girl seemed defenseless, and the young man turned out to be the one she needed at this moment. The young man asked if all the disciples of the Xiao Yao clan were as strong as the girl. The young man decided to show the girl how to handle a sword. He told her to watch what he was doing. Gu Shuan Chen rushed towards the water dragon. He wanted to teach it a lesson. The young man decided to apply his style to fight this monster. The dragon's eyes shone. He turned around and headed towards his new opponent. His jaws were wide open. The girl, looking at all this, was very surprised. How could this young man know their clan's technique? It was classified information. The young man behaved aggressively towards the water monster. He used a turnover of Qi energy and Yang energy. The young man knew that Qi should be used to control the wind currents, and the sword would move on its own. Even in the water, the warrior felt like he was in his own environment. The young man taught the girl a lesson. His sword technique was the same as hers, but his skill was much higher. The girl was amazed. The young woman was very excited by what she saw. She rushed towards the young man. The young man paid attention to her. The girl had questions she wanted to ask this guy. When did he learn how to master this technique? Gu Shuan Chen looked at the girl and decided that she was talented. Because he was unable to break through to the next level in his past life, all he had to do was explain the theory to his students. But now, with enough spiritual energy, he can help others improve. The boy had been stuck at the same level for years, and now he felt the energies of wind and sword pass through him. At one time, the master had told him that despite the sect's distance from the rest, some of its disciples were practicing especially hard. And the day they would come out, the Zhaoyao clan would regain its past might. The girl ran up to the young man, bowed to him, and said she thanked him for his wisdom and skill. The young man asked if a female disciple named Lu Shengxue had recently been accepted into their sect, and where is she now? The girl said that she and the other masters had done a lot to make them occupy this blessed land for practicing. The girl thought that this young man was one of the hermits patronized by Elder Luo. The young man wondered if this girl had become an elder right away. The young man wondered if this girl had become an elder right away. The young man asked how many people were currently in the clan. The girl replied that there were 7 elders, more than 100 official disciples who were in charge of the clan's affairs. The young man asked if there were still guards calling the students together. The girl answered in the affirmative. She thought to herself that this young man even knew about the mountain guards. The young man was moving towards the direction of that sect's manor. The girl followed him. The young man picked up speed. The girl kept up with him. The youngster thought that she was trying very hard, but she couldn't keep up with him. His spiritual level isn't that high, but his fast movement skill is above average. The girl thought that initially she didn't notice anything special about him, but now he was using a technique that exceeded all of hers. The girl decided that she would try to meet all the expectations of the young man, so they kept hopping along behind each other. This was the usual technique of traveling in those days. The young man thought that he used to be able to jump over a mountain and cross a river in 2 strides. Now he thought he was moving slower than a turtle. The young man thought that after taking the spirit pill, he had used his refinement method, increasing its effectiveness tenfold. Even though the speed of practicing wasn't that fast, it was better to accumulate enough energy and lay a solid foundation. The girl yelled for the young man to wait for her. The boy thought that, in any case, this girl must have figured it out by now. If things continued like this, he could take her as his apprentice. The girl hurried after the young man, and she realized that she couldn't miss him. She needed him very much. The young man stopped and waited for the girl. She approached and thanked him, called him master. After waiting for the girl, the young man turned around, walked on. The girl asked him to wait. He said she should work on her sword technique and her agility first, and let her wait for him here. The girl said that the Zhaoyao clan's ban didn't apply to her. She can come and go as she pleases. Gu Shuan Chen approached close to the manor. The girl continued to follow him. The young man approached the Qianlin River. The boy noticed that the spiritual energy this place had weakened a lot. The young man stopped and began to use his skills by altering spiritual energy. These practices had helped him before. Now they had reached the Lingyin Temple. The young man saw this temple and decided that fortunately it was not destroyed. The Lingyin Temple is made of a special spiritual energy crystal. The spiritual power in it is inexhaustible. It is a real boon for any cultivator. Compared to the past, The spiritual energy of this place has been greatly depleted. But this place is still better than any other place. The young man continued that with his help, the Xiao Yao clan's disciples could raise their level in the shortest possible time. Suddenly, he heard his companion warn of danger. It turns out they were being followed. The girl got into a fight with a young man who discovered the couple. There was more than one stalker. There were many of them, and they recognized the girl as a disciple of the Xiao Yao clan. The warriors told the girl that she had lost her mind. How could she allow a stranger to violate their boundaries and destroy the source of their spiritual power? The girl defending the young man said that the master used a special technique to move. It proves the fact that he is one of them. The warriors told her not to talk about the stranger like that. The warrior leader was surprised and snorted when he heard the girl call the young man master. He told the girl to come to her senses and to take off her eyes. The warrior said that this young man was the most ordinary cultivator with a mediocre level of spiritual power. He couldn't possibly be a master. Maybe the girl, for selfish purposes, allowed him to cross their borders. And now they were having a private meeting. At the same moment, the young man who said that started bleeding. The rest of the warriors didn't realize anything yet. What happened? Gu Shuan Chen gave the girl her sword. It was bloody. With this sword, he had just cut off his opponent's tongue. It happened very quickly, and no one had time to notice. The young man said that a blind, unintelligent warrior like him didn't need a tongue. Everyone decided that this insolent man must be dealt with immediately. How could he have the nerve to attack warriors in their territory? The bloodthirsty warriors, shouting for him to die, rushed at the young man. He had to fend off the attack alone. With the words, "What a horror!" Gu Shuan Chen drew his sword and engaged the enemy. Their numerical superiority could not stop him. He wielded his sword left and right. The enemy was flying in different directions. The young man was like lightning, striking his targets. The leader of these warriors, who was left without a tongue, couldn't understand why they couldn't handle one man. He was told that the man was too strong. If this continues, they may all die. Their resources are dwindling. The ringleader shouted, as best he could in his situation, for the remaining warriors to capture the enemy alive. They need him, preferably alive. But dead is fine too. He crossed into their territory illegally. The squad leader said that these warriors, mountain guards, and they must be willing to give their lives to fulfill the order. The commander of the guards decided to go one-on-one with the young man. A girl stepped between them and told him to back off and not be so impulsive. This young man's techniques are strong and unpredictable. If he loses his temper, he won't spare any of those left unharmed. The commander of the guards said, "Have they forgotten their own duty?" He ordered this enemy to be captured immediately, along with this worthless girl. The surviving warriors rushed to the attack with a shout. This was the second wave of attack. They were following the commander's orders. There were two people in the epicenter, a young girl and Gu Shuan Chen. The doctor surrounded them and approached the young people from all sides. In the end, it was the same as always. The young man scattered all his opponents to the sides and left them no chance of escape. The young man said of the commander of these warriors that when he met an enemy stronger than he was, he stepped aside and sent the guards to certain death. It's incomprehensible. The young man turned to the survivors and said that there was great potential in them. He invites them to join him for practice. He has a lot to teach. The survivors of the war sat in the river and pondered the young man's proposal. The young man approached directly to the manor. Only the river separated him. The warriors agreed. The young man decided to give the first lesson. It was the beginning of their joint practice.